welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hello, everybody. This is Evelyn Hershkowitz, Reader Services Librarian. I'm here at Turn the Page, Syosset Public Library's podcast, and I'm here with two wonderful authors, Christina Platt and Wigginton Greene. Thank you guys so much for joining me. They have written a book together called Rebecca, Not Becky. Wonderful story, wonderful book. I recommend it to everybody. We do have a print copy here in the library, so if you're interested, just give us a holler and we'll put you on hold for it. So thank you, Christine and Catherine, for joining me. First of all, I wanted, if you would just tell everybody what Rebecca, Not Becky is about.
Sure. Well, Rebecca, Not Becky is a dual narrative that I wrote with my dear friend, Wigginton Greene. We are both anti-racist educators and practitioners and had just really been seeing a lot of this sort of discourse around, race and racism during George Floyd and post George Floyd. And so decided to write a book that took a different approach using fiction sort of as an educational and teaching tool. And so through Rebecca, Not Becky, in this book, you'll meet my character, DeAndrea Whitman, who is a Black woman who moves to a upper crust suburb in the fictional town of Rolling Hills, although Catherine and I have heard from many readers that this is not a fictional town, it is actually their town.
Okay.
But it's a fictional town called Rolling Hills, and DeAndrea is moving into this predominantly white suburb, and she meets Rebecca, and I will let Catherine tell Rebecca's side of the story.
And Rebecca is a white woman who is living in this community. She's been there for a while. We enter Rolling Hills and we start this story 3 years post a George Floyd-like event. So Rebecca, like many across the country, many white people across the country, was awakened by this tragic event that happened, and decided she really wanted to do better. And so she bought all the books on the anti-racist syllabus that went viral. She tried to talk with her children about race. She started a parent diversity committee at her school, and she's organized lots of multicultural festivals and things like that. And she realizes, though, that they still don't really quite have a lot of diversity in their lives. And this bothers her, and she's confronted with it when her children challenge her on this. And when she finds out that DeAndrea Whitman is moving to her town, she is beside herself because she thinks, well, now this might be a chance to put some of all this to work with somebody. And so through that, we get to see what happens when someone really engages in kind of the performance of being an ally and wanting diversity so badly, but not really doing a lot of the inner work necessary to truly be, an ally and someone who shows up authentically. Because, she sees DeAndrea as someone who can fulfill her need to feel good about herself. And that's where the novel really begins, and we start to help that kind of unravel and evolve.
Yeah, it's just such a great story. Everybody should read it. Absolutely. How did you guys get together to write this book?
Yeah, sure. So many years ago, I worked as managing director of the Anti-Racist Research and Policy Center at American University. And in 2019, was it 2019? 2018, actually. Oh my goodness. We were having an anti-racist book festival, actually the nation's first anti-racist book festival. And I invited Catherine to film, to show and film her documentary, I Am Not Racist, Am I? Right? To show the film of the documentary, I Am Not Racist, Am I? So we showed that at the Anti-Racist Book Festival. And, that was my first sort of introduction to Catherine. Was excited to know that she lives here in DC. And that was sort of the beginning of our work together. We've been colleagues together for many years, have done many anti-racist workshops together, hosted conversations and talks. And so when the opportunity came along to write this, write this book, she is the first person I thought about collaborating with it on. And so, together we really created this dual narrative that we hope could really, again, be an educational teaching tool, but also entertaining, right? We wanted people to see themselves. And one of the reasons that, I wanted to work with Catherine is not just like I just, picked a random white woman out the air. She is someone whose work I have admired for a very long time and is very well respected as an ally in this work. Not that she has deemed herself an ally, the communities in which she serves, we have long since considered her an ally. And so I knew she would be the perfect partner for this book. And then also because of her background in facilitating difficult dialogue around race. I don't know, Catherine, maybe talk a little bit about the film I'm Not Anti-Racist. I'm Not Racist, Am I? Because I think that also sort of sets the framework for what we were, trying to do with this novel.
Thanks. So the documentary was I'm Not Racist, Am I? And we followed a group of teenagers from New York City through a year-long exploration of race and racism. And we filmed them going through a series of workshops. And then we filmed them when they went home and tried to process and share what they were learning with their families and among one another. And we've taken the film on the road for the past 10 years, where we show it in all different kinds of communities in every region of the United States and abroad. And we never let anyone watch the movie unless they come together in community to talk about it. And we really just help them, talk about what issues rise to the surface after they watch the film and get kind of stirred up a little bit. And so I've had that experience for the past decade. And it really informed what we were doing with this, which was to say, what does it mean when we all try and come together and have these conversations and people have their very subjective experiences with the content and with the subject matter and their own backgrounds of understanding of race and racism. And so we wanted to include that in the book as well, of like, how are we talking about this with each other? And then hopefully the book will get people talking about it. We want people to read the book, but we want them to also get other people they know to read the book so they can talk about it with each other.
Now, your film, when you bring people together, is it a diverse group or are they segregated?
Well, it depends. Actually, it depends on what the groups want to do. Sometimes we always show it together, everyone, and it's often very mixed demographics, age, race, all sorts of things. And then we sometimes will have big group discussions, and sometimes we break people up into what we call affinity groups, which are sort of single identity groups to process and then come back together. We do all sorts of different ways.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. Can you find that film anywhere else, or it has to be shown by you guys?
We're going to start making it available in a different way soon, so people can go to my website.
Okay.
WiggintonGreene.com and find it.
That's fabulous. Thank you. So you guys have known each other for a while. Is this both of your first novels?
Mine.
No.
No? Okay.
But it is my first co-authored novel.
Okay.
So it is my first in that regard. But no, I think working on this novel with her, even though I've written books, many other books before, it presented its own unique experiences and challenges and lessons learned. And so it was a wonderful experience. I'm very proud of us.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I've also interviewed another duo, Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray.
Yeah.
And
yes.
they also very similar. But they go back in time and do historical fiction, women that you might not know about. And I've loved it. They have 2 books together, and I've loved both of their books also. So I think this is a great way to communicate and to get it out there in the world from different perspectives.
Victoria's great. She is someone who I actually, spoke with about like, what can Catherine and I expect on the road? What,
Right.
and she's the one who shared with me that so many people are so interested in interracial friendship dynamics, right? Because it's one of the reasons why I always say, like, this is my friend. Everyone is like, well, was this hard? And was this? And it's like, yeah, it was hard to, I mean, writing a novel is just hard, right?
Right. Regardless of
Um,
who you're writing with.
yeah,
Yeah.
regardless of who you're writing it with. But I do think when you're writing it with a friend, right, like the challenges, you can overcome them because your friendship comes first. Another uh, uh, dear friends of ours are Jason Reynolds and Brendan Kiley. And we also spoke with them, you know, like, what was your experience like writing All American Boys, and what did you experience, and you know, what were these talks like on the road, right? And so, yeah, there are other real life black and white friendship dynamics and authors who, you know, have done this work, and they've definitely been role models for us, and we very much appreciate
Right.
the support that they've given us. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, it's great that these things are out there. It really is. It's fabulous. So when writing the book, you wrote DeAndrea and you wrote Rebecca. You totally separate. But
Mhm.
how did you come together? Did you review each other's chapters? Like, what
Yeah,
was
we
the
did.
process like?
Yeah, we did a lot of outlining. So we would do an outline, like, here's what's going to happen. I mean, hours of this, right? Here's what's going to happen in each chapter. This is the plot. This is where the women are going to come together and have, interactions with one another. And we'd map it out, and then we'd go into our kind of respective writing corners. For me, it's like this hole in my basement, basically. And then we'd write a few chapters each and then come together and we would read and share with each other what we did. And it was funny because sometimes we come together and realize, well, what we said was going to happen in the outline isn't what happened, because we just started to get to know our characters. It almost felt as if, for me at least, it became like a documentary film, which was what my experience was previously. And I was so worried about making something up. Like, do I really have the imagination to be able to do this? But then these characters just became their own people, that it was almost as if I was just following them along and what was happening. And so sometimes what we said they were going to do wasn't quite right. And we'd come together and realize, like, oh yeah, I changed that. And then we'd have to sort of
Yeah.
negotiate that and then do the outline again. And then we'd find that our dialogue didn't quite work. Like, maybe how I was voicing DeAndrea wasn't quite right, and vice versa. I was so worried, not worried, but I was mindful of and aware, just from I was in journalism school, and I remember this big conversation we had once about, like, a Black professor was saying, white people should really be careful when writing in Black, like when quoting Black interview subjects, because we don't want to use dialect or think that we, use our own interpretation of how people are talking. And so I was mindful of that with this, of like, I don't want to do that. And so then I would make DeAndrea sound not like a real person at all. Like speaking the Queen's English. And so Christine helped me with that, and we would do, and then vice versa with, like, oh, I don't know that Rebecca would really talk like that. And so that was the time where we would write together.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys have to do research, like, for the town? Is there really a place like this?
Apparently, there are many places like this. This is
Wow.
Yeah.
what we're hearing from readers.
Yeah.
Yeah, Catherine, go ahead.
I mean, I had in my mind's eye, a specific place that I had visited through, just have visited, but have been to enough of them where it really was a composite of kind of suburban enclaves like this, where there's a cute little town center, and people don't have to go all the way back into the city to get their shopping done and to congregate with one another. And that's what we wanted, is that, yes, it's close to a big city, but it is far enough removed that they can almost operate on a daily basis without ever leaving their community, which is what
their little
Rolling
bubble.
Hills is.
Yeah, and I think we all have friends that live in some semblance of communities like this, and so definitely drew on their experiences. I know I did a lot for DeAndrea's characters. I do have friends who are the only Black family, or among, one or two other Black families within their communities, and sort of talked about some of the challenges they face, the things that they joke about with friends, right? That they would never, of course, say in the company of other people, and, really trust and appreciate, Amistad for giving us the space to be honest and authentic with our characters and their stories, because, that is also where the work is, right? And the teaching and learning is as well.
Yeah, I love how the young people come together like that. And, the two kindergarteners and how that really makes the mothers come together because the kids aren't, unless they're taught
Mhm.
racism, they don't see it. I mean, you're just people. And if you have
Mhm.
common interests, and that's what these lovely young girls did and brought the mothers together. And I think that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
think the
really
opportunity
wonderful.
too for people who are thinking about rearing children and noticing what you notice, which is these kids are, yeah, they wore the same outfit on the first day of school, and from there a beautiful friendship began.
Yeah.
They like to do all the same things, and they're buddies. And what happens though is then when we don't have explicit conversations with our children about these things, developmentally appropriate along the way, then they do implicitly start to learn what we've all learned by the time we get to our age, which is that there are these things that are separating us, and we start to believe that's the way it's supposed to be, or that's the way it's always been, and we forget that we were also like Isabella and Nina, the two little girls in the book.
Mhm.
But we have to really counteract it because there's so many things around us that make it easier. The path of least resistance is to just let this all soak in if we don't talk about it and don't engage in these types of conversations and read these kinds of books.
Yeah, no, you know, we're in a community here that is very diverse right now. My kids, when they went to school, my kids who are 29 and 26 do not see color at all. There is zero judgment. It doesn't matter to them at all. And I just wish more people were like that. It just
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
yeah, it's interesting because the notion of I don't see color, I understand the sentiment behind that, which is to say I don't place value on someone because of the color of their skin or their
Mhm.
racial background or their religion or things like that. But we also want to say we don't want to not see someone's race. We don't
Okay.
want to only see their race or assign value to different races, but we want to really see people fully, right? Rebecca starts off the novel by seeing DeAndre only as a Black woman in the way that she serves this need that Rebecca has to prove she's a good ally or that she has diversity in her life. Rebecca wants her curated life, this perfect, life that she's come into. And then she realizes, oh, it doesn't look the way I want it to. And so then she wants to find a Black friend to fulfill some need there, which isn't seeing DeAndre as human. So it's not that
Mhm.
she wants to be color blind, but we also
Mhm.
don't want to be color obsessed. And so we want to find somewhere in between, seeing the full experience, because DeAndrea's race does matter, and DeAndrea would, we should see her as a Black woman. And we should see her as a woman who is caring for her aging mother-in-law and has a young daughter and has a husband who travels a lot and is lonely because she left her friends. And Rebecca similarly has a lot of these similar challenges. And that's where we can all come together, but really embracing the full identity of everybody, and not having to ignore anyone's ethnic or religious or racial background, but to really see the whole picture and understand that people aren't only that.
Yeah. And that goes the same for DeAndrea and the way that she sees Rebecca. So, one of the things, as you know from the book, is that DeAndrea has her own sort of fears and concerns and mistrust of white women. So much so that, it's a reoccurring theme in therapy. And so, as a result, her therapist is like, look, you have relocated to this town. I know it's predominantly white. This is where you are. You're gonna have to make a friend. And DeAndre's like a white friend, like what? You know what I mean? And so you get to see sort of these two parallel narratives in that way, right? Almost like Rebecca, only seeing DeAndrea as this Black woman who can fulfill this purpose, right? Like what screams I'm not racist more than I have a Black friend, right? And you have DeAndrea's reluctance of like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm gonna have to be friends with one of these Beckys, right? Like my therapist is insane to think this is even possible. And this intersection of their lives are their children who are just like, this is my person. You know what I mean? Like we're
Right.
dressed alike on the first day of school. We have so much fun together. And I think so oftentimes it is through our children where we're forced to confront some of our own prejudices and biases and harm that we've internalized, things that we haven't healed, right? And so we show a lot of that through the characters too, because, to Catherine's point, I do think that we have to explore the reasons behind the why, right? Like, your children are not color obsessed, right? Because that's not something that you instilled
Right.
in their lives, right? And
Right.
that's a beautiful thing. However, there are, children whose parents grew up saying offhanded things. There are, and I'm speaking from white children's perspective with that example, but in the same vein, there are Black children who grew up having their own experiences or having their parents tell them, you have to be careful, you have to, and so they grow up. It's sort of like this internalized cultural fear. And sometimes, based on the experiences that people have had, that experience feels justified, right? And what we're trying to get people to understand, in the same way that none of us want our communities and our identities, we don't want to be considered as a monolith, right? Like, DeAndrea has to move beyond her own childhood experiences and allow Nina to have her experiences. She has to move beyond the, Becky's that harmed her in the past, and understand that Rebecca is this new woman in town. And look, man, we're gonna have to be in community together, because our kids are not going to have it any other way, right? And what does that look like? What does that feel like? And to show those bumps along the way and how to navigate them. That's what Catherine and I really tried to show with this novel.
Well, you did. You did a beautiful job. You did.
Thank you.
I will be definitely recommending this book to our patrons. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that one.
Thank
It
you
was
so much.
really great. So you guys going on book tour? Have you started already, or?
Yeah.
We had a launch event last week in DC at the DC Public Library.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Gloria Edom from Well Read Black Girl moderated, and we had a really great discussion that night. And our favorite part was that people had pre-purchased the book, before they got there, and we had signed copies in advance and things like that. And then after the talk ended, people were going and buying more books, saying, "Oh, can you sign this one? This is for my sister. This one's for my mom. This is
Makes a great present for the holidays."
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
so we were glad that, they were inspired by the discussion too, that we want people to not only read the book, but we want them talking about it and reading it in community. I mean, that's the spirit of all of this. So that was great. We were in New York this past weekend, and we're going to Philly.
Where were you in New York?
At the Lip Bar. Yeah, it's a Black-owned bookstore in the Bronx, and
very nice.
We had a wonderful conversation. And I think what's so beautiful is that in all of these venues, right, like, you're seeing these communities that are basically our target audiences coming together to have this discussion. And so, we may have readers that are like, wow, I didn't even know there was a Black bookstore in the Bronx. This is amazing, right? And so, yeah, it's just been wonderful. And we're going to take a little break for the holidays, and then we will be everywhere in January on the out west, and really just having a great time. And so definitely check out our social media pages, our websites for all our tour stops. And we're just excited to be in community and conversation with so many wonderful readers.
That's so wonderful. So Amazon has your book. It's one of the best books for December. So that must have been exciting when you saw that.
That was exciting. Yeah.
It's the very first book when you get on that page, and the cover is fabulous. I mean,
thank you.
We're audio, so I'm sorry, everybody, you can't see it. So you'll have to come into the library to check out the cover. But I love the cover, the colors, and the two women. It's a wonderful cover with the white picket fence. Love the cover. It's a great cover.
Thank you so much.
I'm also an audiobook person. I love listening. So unfortunately, I didn't have the audiobook, but there was a little snippet on Overdrive. So I listened to that, and it was very well done. So did you guys have a hand in picking your?
We did.
Narrators?
I'm really excited. We really wanted to also have two narrators.
Sure. It needed to have two narrators.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The women have such different voices. We really like that. So we loved who they chose, and it's really exciting to hear it come to life in that way.
Yeah, it's great. What do you think? You think it'll be made into a movie?
I feel like we keep getting asked this question, and it's the universe saying it's
Yes,
going to be a TV show, it's going to be a
yes.
movie. I mean, we would love that, right? I mean,
A
one of the
mini
things
series. I think it should be a mini series.
I do too. I do
Agreed.
too. You know, we
And
really
even
need to.
after the book ends, I think you can keep going on. I mean, there's,
We can do
just to see where their lives go. I don't think it has to end at this.
And there's
it.
so many other
Doesn't.
great characters
Characters,
in the
yes,
community that we just would love
yes.
to
Bring the
getting to
rest of
know.
them to, it doesn't have to be just a black and white. You have
Yeah.
you have brown, you have Asian, you have everybody in there. I don't
Yeah.
think you had a
Yeah.
Jewish person though, did you?
No
Do
one
we
who
have
has
a Jewish
declared that
person?
they're Jewish. No, we haven't
Oh,
talked
okay. There was no
about that
real
yet.
religion talks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was also intentional. We
Okay.
there were already so many identities layered within the narrative, and just to add religion and just further complicate, like we didn't want that to become take center stage from
Right.
this what we were trying to do here. And I think the beautiful thing, as Catherine said, is no one declared what they were, right? And that
Mhm.
allows readers to really see themselves, right? Like we want them to have a little cognitive dissonance, but not not too much, right? Because we want them to be able to explore these narratives and see themselves in these characters, see their friends, see their family members, right? And so yeah, we hope we did that. And if we are fortunate enough to have this become a mini series or a movie, right? I think the beautiful thing is we can really explore the backgrounds of these characters so that folks understand how we are shaped and how our lived experiences play such a real role in our perception of the world, and how we have to be very intentional, right, about challenging that and changing that.
Right.
And
But who
one
do
thing
you
I'd add to that is that what we hope as we get to be in conversation more with people, then as we get further into January and February with our book tour and talks, is that we hope to be in conversation with people who then have read the book, and so that when people say like, well, what about was anyone in the book this religion or this background or this, then instead of saying like, yeah, we don't have that in the book, which is true, what I love to hear from and what we want to hear from readers is how would that add to the conversation, right? Like how
Mm-hmm.
added, being Jewish to someone's experience, like what would you say about that? And that's the beauty of where these conversations can go,
Mm-hmm.
is that it becomes less and less about what's actually, on the page, which is
Yep.
important. Of course, we spend a lot of time making that. But then where do the communities that we're in, where do the readers want to take it? And how can we continue adding to the conversation? It becomes like a catalyst for ongoing
Mhm.
dialogue.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that would be in a book discussion after everybody's read the book.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Count me in if you do it. I would love to
Yes,
be in
Yay.
on that discussion. So who do you think should play DeAndrea? Who would you pick? What what fabulous
Ah, so
actor
many
out there.
amazing Black
I know,
actresses.
there
I
are.
mean, Kerry Washington, Gabrielle
Absolutely.
Union. I mean, like just there are so many, and I think so many Black women will be able to see themselves in
Mhm.
DeAndrea and in her friends, right? And I can just think of so many folks who'd be able to bring DeAndrea to life.
And Malik, who would play Malik?
Oh, I mean, you know, I imagine
Claire
Malik pretty.
Underwood,
I
Taylor
imagine
Dick,
Malik to be pretty high. Yeah,
Kay
Mahershala
Diggs,
Ali.
maybe.
Yeah, like there's some hotties out there. I expect
Yeah.
him being hot. All the white moms are salivating over him at
Yes,
the
absolutely. And
playground.
what about Rebecca? Who do you think could play Rebecca's part?
Yeah, I mean, I had for a while in my head Blake Lively,
Hmm.
which I think will be fun. Yeah, and then her husband Todd, I had this actor who I wasn't familiar with before, but Luke McFarlane. He was in this really great Apple TV series
Okay.
that I just with Rose Byrne and Seth Rogen, and he was played a great husband. Anyway, he was wonderful. So I had that. Those are the two people after a while that I just had in my head of who would be playing.
Okay. I think that sounds great. Okay. Are you guys working on anything else right now?
No, it has
No.
been such a whirlwind year. I think that we are just in full on Rebecca, not Becky mode. We're going to take a nice little pause over the holidays, just to sort of rest and recharge and get ready to get back on the road in January. Like Catherine said, by then, so many people will have read the book. And so, being able to just be fully present and engage in these conversations, it does require a lot of mental and emotional energy. And so I know we want to be well rested and just really prepared and excited for those conversations. So I know I'm taking it easy. What about you, Catherine?
Yeah, I've got some things, but nothing that's ready for prime time yet.
Okay. Well, I thank the two of you so very much. It was so nice speaking with you. And thank you for writing such a fabulous book.
Thank you. Thanks. Let us know when you finish and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, it's fabulous. It's just so great. So I want to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Thank you both so much for being here. Happy holidays and good luck with the book tour.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to something else that you guys do together. That would be just fabulous.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a great day. Take care. Thank you.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.